here on the Bobcast to start off this week, and I'm with softball head coach Bill Vasko. Coach, last week you split a series against Fairmont and then a sweep against Wheeling, those games on Thursday and Friday, and then a lot of rescheduling from this weekend. Supposed to play Saturday, Sunday, but the Wheeling game moved up and the West Liberty game moved forward. So what did you make overall of your last week here with trying to figure out your scheduling and then ended up going 3-1 over the 4 games?
Well, we knew the Fairmont games were going to be big because, they're near the top of the North Division. And, we jumped off to a good start in the first inning against them, got some walks, some timely hits there. A little bit disappointed that we didn't hit as well the remainder of the day. But very fortunate and happy to come away with that first win, and then just some tough luck in that second game where Sid Theobald pitched a terrific game, and we had an opportunity there. I believe it was in the top of the 8th where we had a runner at third with 1 out and wasn't able to push that through, and then Riggs, one of their better hitters, came through with a home run in the bottom of the inning to get the win to them. So hats off to there, but Sid pitched a great game. It was just disappointing that you look back and we had a lot of hits in that doubleheader, but just not enough hits when we had runners in scoring position in both games. So, glad to come away with one. Disappointed that we didn't get the second one, especially with a solid pitching performance on the mound. Wheeling, we hit the ball a lot better and took good care of business there. So pleased with that, and now just looking forward to the big matchup today with West Liberty.
Absolutely, and so we'll start with that game too, actually against Fairmont. You talked about Sidney Theobald, and I saw the 1-0 loss, and then Matt told me hey, Sidney actually pitched pretty well up until that one home run. Only 2 hits that she allowed in basically 7 innings plus the 8th until the home run, but like you said, the hitting, you had 9 hits in that game, but just couldn't string it together just at the right moments where you would get runners at first and second and just not be able to move them up, or it was too late in the inning, you didn't have enough outs to give away. But Sydney certainly could argue that it was her best game of the year, and it ended up being a loss, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. I thought all of her pitches were working well, and, she was able to keep them off balance, and she did what we needed her to do, and it's just unfortunate that we, like you said, couldn't string anything together, and it was kind of we knew it was going to be a tight ball game, both of them, and, trying to figure out whatever we could to scratch 1 to 2 across, and it just, in terms of where we were in the lineup every time we had base runners on, we just weren't able to, make any strategical moves to make some things happen, and it was just one of those things when some of your hitters who you think are going to drive in and run just didn't happen that particular game. And Fairmont's a good team, so they got 3 out of 4 against us this year, and maybe we'll see them again in conference tournament. But like I said, it's disappointing to win the first one and not get the second one and finish the deal, but we played well overall and obviously pitched really well both ends of that game, and the bats came alive against Wheeling, and hopefully that continues today.
Yeah, and so we'll go a little bit backwards in that game 1 against Fairmont, where you got 4 runs in the first inning that pretty much set the tone for the entire game, and you kind of needed that first inning, considering the final score being a 5-3, and big part of that first inning was being able to draw the walks to get base runners on, to get across a couple of runs in the end. And I see you, when you have the home games there at third base, and you tell your batters all the time, just wait for your pitch, don't swing at anything that you don't think you can hit. And that really came to bear fruit for you guys in that game with being able to draw those key walks.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that was important, we saw Chastain again, who, started the first game against us when we played them at home. So we had a little bit of a better opportunity to, see where she threw us. Last time she pitched against us, and I think our batters were just a little more prepared to know what she was going to try to do. She wasn't able to hit her spots, and some pitches that she thought maybe should have been strikes that we laid off of this time where we were swinging at them in the first time put us in some favorable positions to get the count in our favor and lay off some pitches, still looking for what we really wanted to hit hard. And then we got a couple of little blue pits after we drew some walks that got some runs in. I mean, we still have some runners on in that inning and let them off the hook a little bit, but I think we set the tone a little bit where we put some pressure on her to really come and throw at us a little bit more and not nibble at the corners. And we were a little bit better prepared for that because we had already seen her and kind of reviewed what she had done previously.
And so we go into the Wheeling games then, and pretty close first game between you two guys, and it really kind of came down to that last inning where needed Shauna to close it out, and she did that job. And then game two, falling into a 3-0 hole that first inning, but then Sydney Theobald recovered and pitched really well the rest of the way, and the bats really came alive and played it across 13 runs in that one. Wanted to talk about Ava Ganibas, who went 6 for 7, got a home run, hit 5 RBI, and for me personally, that's just the best that she's looked at the plate all year in that series against Wheeling. Is that sort of what you saw the same as well?
Yeah, I think, she's done a great job just putting the ball in play. I thought earlier in the season she had a few more strikeouts and wasn't having always good quality at bats, but now she's up there battling and having some real good quality at bats, seeing a lot of pitches, fouling off a lot of pitches, and then just putting the ball in play hard. Maybe if she doesn't square it up completely, it's still going in for a hit because she's, getting rid of the pitches that maybe are on the corners and making the pitcher come a little more over the plate so that she can drive something. So, she's worked really hard throughout the season to continue to refine things, and I think that's paying off for her at the plate, and really happy for her with what she's done and continues to get better and in that 2-hole spot to really drive in a lot of runs there.
And so going back again to Sydney Theobald, where she got into trouble in that first inning, and your assistant coach Melissa Schock had to go out and talk to her and kind of calm her down. The rest of the game, she kept Wheeling off the board after those 3 runs. What do you know what changes she made to be successful again and keep them off the board after that rough start?
I don't think there was anything necessarily that she was doing there. I think she allowed some balls to be put in play, and we didn't make some plays as well in the first inning. That's probably been one of the areas of most concern is that, defensively, we haven't always been as consistent as we would like the last couple of weeks. Our pitching has been the most consistent part of what we've done over the last few weeks. The pitchers are putting us in good opportunities to make routine plays, and sometimes we don't do that. So, I just think that, we weren't quite as focused coming out in that first inning, and maybe took it for granted a little bit that it was going to be an easy game in the second game. But Sid made the adjustment, was able to keep them off balance with her drop curve and her changeup, which really helped, and didn't allow them to hit too many balls hard. And, rest of the game we played a lot better defensively, and then we kind of chipped away at their lead a little bit and then busted open a little bit later in the game. So that was nice to see. Once we got in their bullpen, we were able to really kind of just hammer it down a little bit and finish things off.
And then one player who, doesn't necessarily get a lot of RBI, and I know you talked about with last week with Matt Ambrose and Sierra Sanderson, where I was speaking with Matt and Sam after we were leaving the game, and I wanted to say, I know we can't really stat it, but I think she might be the leader in the conference in infield hits with just being able to either slap the ball the other way and just use her speed or her bunting, where she sometimes looks like the best bunter in the MEC with her placement and just being able to get to first base. But certainly a weapon with her and then Kat Treff both being able to play at the 9-1 spots, where you essentially have 2 leadoff batters, depending on where you are in the game, and that you can get both on base pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Sierra's done a great job getting on. Her and Kat both have a variety of things that they can do in terms of bunting and slapping and then hitting away when they need to. And, when they come up back-to-back and Sierra can get on, and then it gives you a lot of flexibility to be able to do different things at the plate and then also steal bases and put pressure on the defense. And and when Sierra has runners on base in front of her, it can kind of mix it up as well. And, she's been really consistent in limiting the strikeouts, which gives you a lot of opportunities that, if she gets a pitch that she can at least make contact with, that you can do some things with the runners as well. So that helps to know that she's at least going to put it in play. And, I don't like to give up outs on sacrifice bunts. If you've got a runner on and she can bunt and then find a way on as well and not have to give away an out, like you said, that helps tremendously to move up a runner and get an additional runner on without giving up that out.
And it seems like every week that I look at the stats when you guys play another weekend doubleheader series, that someone else is leading the team in average in a given moment of who gets hot. Not to say that any other players cool off, but one player like Ava Ganibas going 6 for 7, but Sierra now leading the team in batting average. So another player that I want to talk about in Taylor McCarty, who had a really big game 2 against Wheeling, was 3 for 10 coming into it, which not necessarily bad in any way when you're batting 300 coming into it, but then went 2 for 3 and hit a big 3-run home run, and just a solid hitter at the plate where she has power, but she's also really good at finding the place of getting contact on the ball, but getting into a good place where it's going to be a hit for her and she can get on base.
Yeah, I mean, I took a look at the stats yesterday and was really surprised at, how few strikeouts she's had this year. So she's done a really good job of putting the ball in play. And I think she's really dangerous right now because she's just really good at, even if it's not her pitch, she figures out how to make an adjustment while the pitch is coming in and just get the barrel to it and hit it hard. And, like she's really strong, and it's just sometimes I'll see a pitch that she swings at, I'm like, it's not the best pitch, and all of a sudden she hits it hard because she just makes a really good adjustment and finds a way to get the barrel to it and hit it hard. And really happy that that home run she hit against Wheeling was a missile, and really happy for her to see that. So hopefully, you keep saying that it keeps swapping around. I would like to see everybody just be hot at once and keep raising the averages week after week here as we finish up. So
yeah, I know you talked about it with last week with Matt. I think you had 5 or 6 players all batting over 300 on the year. Something that you said that I want to bring up is that you guys are 12-2 in your last 14 games. You lead the North Division in the first real year that you're in the MEC. No conference games last year. But it seems like now that you got the opening losses out of the way, the start of the season against Shawan, hit a little bit of a rough patch, sort of the start of the season, but now these last 14 games and going into this week, it seems like the team finally everything is clicking at once. The hitters are hitting. The fielding has improved compared to, like you said, in recent weeks. It hasn't been up to the standard that you set, the pitching being solid all season, but it seems like this team now is as complete as it has been all year.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just built confidence within the players because there were so many unknowns about, we only played 12 games as a D2 program and we hadn't faced any MEC competition. So, and, a lot of our players, for the most part, even our incoming freshmen, hadn't played competition for a year. Not to say that they weren't out practicing and working on their skills, but there's just so many unknowns coming into this year. I think, our goal was to be playing our best softball at this point in the year right now. I think we're doing that. We've developed some confidence where the players feel good about themselves. But it's going to be a tough stretch this week. I feel like we're playing 4 of the best teams in the MEC this week to wrap things up. So, it's going to be a challenge, but I think the players are going to be up for it and excited about what we have here coming up in this week, and just excited to see where we finish up after this week as we head into conference tournament. Today's games are huge against West Liberty. 2 really good games last time we played them and split. So just excited to see where we're at today against them.
Yeah, that game starts today, 3 o'clock. You guys are scheduled, and then tomorrow, West Virginia Wesleyan, Friday against Charleston, and Saturday against West Virginia State. Charleston, West Virginia State, the top 2 teams in the South Division. And like you said, you're playing against 4 of the 5 other top MEC teams. You just played Fairmont, who is that 5th team besides you guys, and it's a little bit different in how it works in that West Liberty has the best team ERA in the MEC this year. They have a wonderful pitching staff to their own right, and then Charleston and West Virginia State certainly can bring out the bats at any time they want. So it's certainly a tough test for you guys, but certainly some that I'm sure you guys are ready for.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had good practice, coming off good games against Wheeling, and I think the players are feeling pretty good. We have some good weather today, and just looking forward to getting back on the field and going at it today and, putting up a good battle. And I know that West Liberty's pitchers are really good, and I think our players, kind of like what we talked about with Fairmont, that now they've had a chance to see them, understand what they're going to try to do against us, that we'll just go out there and put our best foot forward and see what happens.
Absolutely, and the weather guide's finally smiling upon you, and that you got the cold weather, the rain over this weekend, and you finally get nice sunny mid-70s weather all this week, and certainly some great softball weather to enjoy. And thank you for taking the time to come and talk to me on the Bobcast this morning.
All right, no problem, Logan. Thanks for having me.
Once again on the Bobcast this week, and we're bringing in women's lacrosse, who just wrapped up the regular season, a 29-1 victory against West Virginia Wesleyan at home on Wednesday, and then a road 11-6 victory over Davis and Elkins on Sunday, with a big MEC semifinal game tomorrow at Bobcat Stadium once again against DNE. And Coach, kind of a letting out the anger week for you guys after the disappointing loss the previous Saturday against Charleston, and come out and the guns were blazing against Wesleyan and coming out real strong in that game. And then another kind of tough matchup with D&E, where a big defensive struggle between the two teams and not much offense, but once again coming out on top. What did you make overall of your week of getting back into the win column?
We told the girls, we have to make some statements this week going into the tournament. It's really important to show people that, we did lose to Charleston, but, we're not going down without a fight. And we came out firing against West Virginia Wesleyan, and Steph King had 5 goals in the first half. And I said, you know what, you're only 3 away from your 100th goal, so might as well make it happen. And then against D&E, our offense we were a little flat, but thankfully our defense really picked it up, and McKenna Shea crushed it in the goal. And we're just excited to play them again tomorrow, and hopefully, defense can stay on the same wavelength and offense can pick it up a little bit.
And so we'll talk about and start with Steph King, who had 12 goals in total, 8 against Wesleyan, 4 against D&E. Like you mentioned, now has 100 in her career. And during the end of that Wesleyan game, I remember you would, draw up little plays here and there, try and get her free, and she would come over, and the rest of the attack would come over to your assistant Summer and be like, hey, what are we going to do? And Summer's almost like yelling at Steph, like, get on the ball and score, like, whatever it takes. But a player where, as a senior and your first year here, but seeing how talented she is and you just being happy for her to get to that milestone.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we've been talking about it all season, and every game, it's, the total was getting higher and higher. And like I said, she had 5 in the first half, and I was like, I'm not going to stop you. Let's just get this thing going. But we did say, can you just please score your 100th goal so that we can move on? Because we wanted to run through some plays and stuff. But no, she has really been a spark for us, especially over these last few games. She's really proved herself. And we are really excited that she will be coming back next year. So can't wait to see her score some more goals.
Absolutely, and also see her kind of continue to go up the record books here at Frostburg. Another player, Cammie Schneidwind, who missed that loss against Charleston and certainly was a big miss in that game. She comes back this week. She got 8 goals and 7 assists across the 2 games. And something that I was surprised to see, she only had 4 assists on the season coming into those 2 games, and then got those 7, where obviously we know that, give her it, in basketball terms, give it to her on the low post and she's going to go to work. But now adding those assists in to her play, and certainly a player that really can't afford to miss in any games.
Yeah, I actually had a conversation with the Charleston coach, and she said, thank goodness you guys didn't have Cammie, because that's a guaranteed 4 points. And we only lost to them by 2. So, everyone knows what kind of player Cammie is and what she brings to the table. And we did truly miss her against Charleston. But I think now that she missed that game and she's back firing even more than she was before. So we're really excited to have her and Erin Bryce both back for the conference tournament.
Absolutely. And McKenna Shea, who essentially is also basically coming back into the team, had been resigned to the bench for a few games. Whitney was playing out of her mind for a little while, but then picked up an injury, and so now McKenna is back in, stepped up 11 saves against D&E. Her previous high this season was only 6, but coming up in a big way and making those saves. I remember last week you would talk with Matt about McKenna was, losing the starting spot because she wasn't making the plays that she needed to. And then this past week, certainly stepped up to the plate in a big way.
Yeah, she really shone, especially in our D&E game. I remember one save specifically. She had come out of the goal to pick up a ground ball, and the other team ended up winning it. And she made a one-handed save as she was running back into the goal circle. So she has really found her groove, and she has really stepped up when we needed her to. And I've always said it's really anyone's game with these goalies. And right now, Whitney is on her way back from an injury, but we know that we're good with McKenna. I mean, I feel confident with either of them in the cage when they're at full strength. So that's a great predicament to be in, I think.
Absolutely. And something we talked about all season where being ready for the moment where, you can lose your starting place. You have to be ready to come back in, where you look at some other sports where, you have your backup goalie. They're really like, oh, I'll just ride the bench this year. I get a spot on the team. But starter goes out and they're just not ready to come in. And it's the complete opposite with you guys where they're both itching to get into the game.
Yeah, definitely. And it's been really awesome to see the way that they support each other. There has been, a lot of competition between the two of them. But this weekend at D&E, Whitney was McKenna's biggest fan. And I think that is a great relationship for them to have. Like, one, they're putting the team first, but also they just want themselves and each other to be successful because they know that leads to our team being successful. So it was awesome to see McKenna play and making those stops, and Whitney, cheering her on along the way. It was great.
Yeah, and it's something where I've talked previously this week with other coaches of having starting spots, limited in just the way the nature of the game, but no coach is ever going to complain about having competition for places. You're always going to guarantee that you have someone that's deserving to be in that spot and someone right behind them that's just as deserving that can come in and do the job. Going into the defense now, which you said you were very proud with the D&E, and one that stood out to me in the past week, Mackenzie Kramer has been one of your favorite players all season. Their defense against D&E, 2's caused turnovers and 4 ground balls, a big day for her when it was kind of needed against that squad. And then a little bit of a funny story when you were home against Wesleyan and she was, just outside the Drawkenshire circle hoping to get in, got 12 in the game. And obviously Ben Crowder, who stepped into the interim SID role here, was like, all right, well, number 4 again. Every time she would pick it up and just turn over to Sam Campaneschi and be like, all right, guess who that was? Yep, number 4. But a great week for her overall.
Yeah, she has really been like our rock on defense all season long, and I think she's really underrated. I mean, she does the hard work, and she doesn't always get the stats for it. And I think she's finally getting those stats and getting recognized. But she is just one of those kids, where you're like, we need the ball, we need a draw control, and she's like, I got it. So really proud of her. Glad to see that she's finally getting recognized, and, hopefully she can just keep it going because she is crushing it.
And certainly one where you can't always look at the stats, but you guys, and it's very much a defense by committee at times, where you have Emily Chick and Bridget Weiss in there as well. Some of the midfield players, like Mara O'Neill, who plays both attack and defense at times. Shelby Brunette the same. We'll talk with Shelby about it in a minute. But certainly one where the team as a whole can keep teams limited, but individual players may not stand out, even though they might be great defenders of their own right.
Exactly. I think any one of our defenders could be, all conference defense. But I also think the same with our attack. We're just so well balanced that it's hard for one person to stand out because everyone is playing well. But as a coach, that's what you want because if one person's out, you have someone who can step in. So for us, again, it's a great predicament to have.
And so I wanted to talk about, just mentioned Shelby Burnett, who does kind of a lot of the quote-unquote grunt work for you guys, where she's not going to stow up with a ton of stats in each game, but she's going to put in all the work. You know what you're going to get out of her. She's going to do her job in defense and attack. She just, not all the glory is going to go to her, but came up with 2 really big goals for you guys. The score was at 6-4, and she made it 8-4 with back-to-back goals. One of them was a woman down goal, which was really big for you guys, but just stepping up in a big way in that D&E game.
Yeah, Shelby is one of those kids where the sky's the limit for her, and it's just, what she chooses to do with it. And she really has been on a roll this past week. We say like good vibes, and she's really been having some good vibes. And I told her, I was like, I don't need you to score a bunch of goals or, create a bunch of turnovers. I just need you, when you have the opportunity to do something, I need you to make the most of it. And she really has been doing that. She's really been stepping up. And I think next year, she's definitely going to find herself in a bit bigger role. But it's really nice to see how she's developed over the season.
Absolutely, and one of many players where, like I said, doesn't necessarily get all the glory or the stats, but you can come up with a big play at one point. It just energizes the whole team. Where it was a little bit of a slow start against D&E, kind of going back and forth, and then getting those big 2 back-to-back goals, and really those 3 goals after being up 5-4 to 8-4 coming in. And you have a few of those players, Mara, as I mentioned as well, where they just can come up with some big play, either force a turnover, even be pressure and cause the other team throw the ball out of bounds, get an assist, drive up the field, just put energy into the team when you need it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we obviously get excited when Steph scores, when Summer scores, when Cammie scores. But when kids like that score or make a big play, it's the whole team, the whole bench is just fired up. And, that's what we need in tight games like that, is for those players to give us that kind of momentum. So it was great to see.
Absolutely. And so, as I mentioned at the start of this interview, a semifinal game tomorrow at 5 o'clock at Bobcat Stadium. The first time that you guys are able to appear in the MEC tournament. And once again, playing against D&E. So, a little bit back and forth where you're playing a team 2 days later that you just played on the road in a rematch here at Bobcat Stadium. Certainly want to wish you the best of luck in that game. Congratulations on a regular season. Very successful for you guys as well. And thank you for taking the time every week to come on and talk to us on the Bobcast. Really always brings a smile, at least to my face, every week having you on.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Back on the Bobcast this week, and it's the last meet before the MEC Championships for track and field. And the last chance Bobcat Invitational at West Virginia Wesleyan, a chance for teams to kind of try out whatever their last throw of the dice is and hope that your athletes can put up the best times and the best distances that they can, and getting ramped up for the MEC Championships next week. Coach, what did you think of your athletes' performances over the weekend?
Oh, we definitely had a great weekend. And for this to be the final tune-up, I think we've done everything that we can do for the conference championships, and now we just sit and wait to see which athletes are on the bubble are going to qualify based off of declarations this week. But we had several strong performances across the board, like all running events, field events, like some new top marks in the conference from a couple athletes, and so it's definitely exciting going into this final meet, and because you want to end your last regular season meet on a high note, and I think we definitely did that.
Absolutely, and a great way to get experience and get that final level of competition where you kind of can see where other teams are going to be as well when you go into next week. Wanted to start off with the throwers, and we've talked about them, I think, every single week this year, and John Kearns and Mike Belker, where, I wanted to get a little bit different topic to where, not just talking about their successes, and obviously they've had pretty much every success this year, but being able to push one another where they're both top 5 in the conference in almost every event that they compete in. There's a couple throwers from Charleston as well that push them as well, but having them on the same team of being able to push one another to both succeed, but also, I want to be better than you, so I'm going to try and do my best to beat my own teammates so I can get the recognition.
Yeah, they definitely push each other at competitions and at practice, and they help keep each other balanced at the competitions. And having those 2 athletes from Charleston as well, that is an area that I felt that we were going to do extremely well in this year. And the Charleston guys, they have a freshman that has really stepped up and has gotten into that mix too. So anything can happen at this conference meet, and it could be John. It could be Mike. It could be Nathan Stout from Charleston. So there's going to be some exciting performances, and the throws, just in the shot put, the disc, and the hammer, are going to be some of the premier events on the men's side, as just to how close the competition is between those three athletes, as well as like a couple others from Charleston and Glenville and other schools.
Certainly those throws, it could come down to the last centimeters, where you look at the standings and how close everyone is to one another. And then on the women's side with Alexa Bradburn, where she's 5th in discus and 6th in the hammer in the conference, and has just steadily improved all year, where she was in kind of the low 30s in the hammer, and then started goaded up to the high 30s now in the hammer and the discus, where she had a couple of meets where just didn't have her form on right, had a couple of DQs, but then really brought it up end of the season, and just really, really steady improvement from her over the whole year.
Yeah, she's done amazing. First year doing hammer, and obviously she did weight throw and indoor last year, and we were looking forward to what she would do in hammer last year, but this year picking it up and definitely excelling really well and quickly with it too. At this past meet, she actually had some throws that she fouled on that were over 40 meters, including one that would have been about 45 meters, and that would have put her number 2 in the conference. And so it's just little things at this point that can make a huge difference. And it's not just for our athletes, it's for all the athletes in the conference, that if you're not on your game at the conference meet, the rankings mean nothing. So you could be ranked first and have a bad day, and you could finish 8th, or you can be somebody like Alexa, who's ranked 5th or 6th and has a really good day and finishes at the top of the conference. So my coach in college, Kim Dice, like she always said, rankings mean nothing. And so it's just going to come down to how you perform at the conference meet.
Absolutely, in that 1 to 3 days, and however you perform, that's how you're going to finish the end of the year. It doesn't matter, like you said, if you're ranked number 1 or number 8, wherever you finish that day is where your kind of place in the record books is going to be. And then kind of keeping in the theme with the throws, and one surprise that was thrown out to me, Rondell Carlton, you threw into the javelin the first time that he's competed in that, and all he does is throw the 5th best throw in the conference on the year on the day. He's also 4th in the triple jump, but what went into both the decision to have him throw the jav and then his practice going into it of being able to, now he's in place for a podium spot essentially?
Yeah, Rondell, that was definitely a huge surprise for us. We had my sprints jumps coach, he works with Rondell in the triple jump, and he suggested having a few athletes try out javelin, and because it's not a very strong event in the conference. And now Coach DeMarcus Stidd, who's our throws coach, he's got some experience with it, and Coach Alex Kemp, our sprints jumps coach, has some experience with it. So it's nice to have coaches that have that background. And so when Rondell had mentioned that he used to be a cricket player, and we're like, well, we know he's explosive and he's strong, and so we put him in. And I think he only had 3 or 4 practices before this competition working on javelin, and comes out and his first throw is 41 meters, and right away shoots to the top of the conference. And all the throwers around there were just wondering, who is this guy that just showed up and started knocking us down. And so that was one of our biggest surprises of the weekend that we had. And that was looking like he's going to be in triple and javelin at the conference meet.
Absolutely. And so 1 week before, hey, you know what? You're going to compete in 2 events now, or 3 events, whatever he decides. But certainly a nice surprise for you guys. Continuing in triple jump talk, you have Alyssa Mullery and Omokemi Balagoon, who are 1 and 3 in the conference in the triple. Alyssa obviously set that fantastic mark the other week, and Omokemi winning this past meet with a 10.59 for her. But both of them in that event really, again, kind of like we talked about the throwers, but being able to push each other and then sandwiched in between another athlete for that 1 and 3 spot where they can compete against one another and then against another competitor to see who comes out on top eventually.
Yeah, it's definitely a good 1-2 punch with those two in the triple jump. That's going to help boost our women's score. And as long as they perform to what they're capable of at the conference meet, that's all it comes down to. And Alyssa has been extremely consistent throughout the year, and just doing phenomenal in triple jump, high jump, 100 hurdles. And Omokemi, first year athlete coming in, and she's had some ups and downs throughout the season, but she's been battling through and is right there in the top 3 for the triple. So that's area where we're looking at scoring a lot of points on the women's side.
So Alyssa, who's also fourth in the high jump in the conference, and then just, out of her pocket, just set the top time in the 100 hurdles in the last heat and the last time that she's going to race that before the conference meet. And one of her best events the entire year in those 100 hurdles, where she's constantly being pushed as well. And it was a battle between her and kind of the next 3 or 4 athletes of who's going to come out on top. And she set that top time, won the event, and improved her PR this year by a full tenth of a second.
Yeah, she was basically tied for third with 2 other women, and so technically I think she was like 5th or 6th like in the conference. But what separated the top time of 15:28 to 15:34 is only 600ths of a second. So it's at conference, it's going to be a battle there. And she came out and with the headwind and pretty much solo, because there was another athlete that had the same time as her at 15:34 from West Liberty that didn't run in the finals for the hurdles. And now Alyssa usually does better whenever she's running from behind and has somebody there pushing her. But this time it was solo, and she bust out that 15:24 and take over the conference lead. And so it's kind of puts the conference on notice that she's the number 1 hurdler out there. And she's had her own struggles with the hurdles this year. Had an athlete at the last meet at Charleston that clipped her hurdle and caused her to fall. And so but she's competitive, so she got right back out there this past weekend, didn't let it bother her that she fell in her last race, and set the best time in the conference for this year. So that'll be another race that is going to be exciting to watch for all the coaches, because there's so many hurdlers that are within a tenth of a second of each other.
Yeah, certainly one for the neutrals as well. Well, obviously you're rooting for your athlete, but if you're there as just a generic track fan, that's going to be one of the best races of the entire conference. I'm going to switch it up a little bit into now pole vaulting, where Mark Vaughns and Adam Smith went 1 and 2 in the pole vault. Just how much that helps them for just their confidence level, where I don't want to necessarily say that they've been discouraged by the Glenville athletes, where their top 3 are the top in the conference. They didn't compete in this event, but for their confidence, just being able to successfully get up in their height and be able to say that they won an event for them going into the conference meet.
It's a huge confidence boost for them, and they've been pretty consistent throughout the whole year. And pole vaults, once again, is another event where if you're not on your game with it, anything can happen. And just the wind blows a certain way, can knock the pole into the bar, doesn't really allow you to have much control aside from what you can control with it. And so that's another event where, even though Glenville's got several athletes that are at the top, one of those athletes can have a bad day, and Mark or Adam can have a really good day, and that boosts them up into the podium spots.
Yeah, certainly would be a good day for one of them to set a PR and get up to that height. And one other athlete that I wanted to talk about, in Chloe Park, another pole vaulter who I noticed that when Matt and I are going through all of the Berg Awards for tonight, and we're looking through the nominees, and that you nominated her for comeback athlete, had a lot of injuries last year, wasn't able to stay healthy, and then the shortened season happened. And this year, first time competing in pole vault, and you look at the conference standings, she's not really at the top, but a really tough event just to learn, and for her to go out and compete in every single meet and just be able to give you guys another athlete and give her the opportunity, certainly a heartwarming story, we'll call it.
Yeah, we're excited to have Chloe qualify for the conference meet, and she could potentially score at the conference meet as well. She's not too far out from the scoring range of it, and she's worked hard all year to come back from that injury. Even during the fall, it was still bothering her, and she's battled through. Last year, we were kind of trying her out in some other events, and just came down to pole vault, and she's been learning it from scratch all year. And same with Mark. It's his first year doing it too, and both these athletes having a lot of success. And for Chloe, this is huge. For her to be dealing with injuries and setbacks last year and beginning of this year, to learning a whole new event and having success with that new event, and now competing at the conference championships in it. It's I'm excited for her. Like, she's nothing but positive, like, throughout the season, throughout the year, and I mean, she definitely deserves the opportunity to compete.
Absolutely. And so going into a little bit of the distance and certainly your specialty being the cross-country head coach, getting able to compete in the steeplechase, which I saw you posted on social media, kind of the practice that you guys had and jumping into the water with Hannah Muir, Justice Lee Provost, and Brennan Thomasimi all in that. And Hannah, who's been one of the top women's performance for you guys all year, 5th best in the steeplechase and a sub-13 in her first race ever doing it. Another just pleasant surprise for her on the year.
Yeah, I've been trying to push her towards the steeple all year and thinking that she's going to do well at it. And finally, kind of looking at the results, like going into this race, like she decided that she wanted to try it out. And I mean, because she's now 12th in the 5K, and she'd have to run 18:30 or about 18:30 at conference to score in the 5K. And so I was kind of looking at the steeple and encouraged her to lean towards that. And now she ran this race with probably about a week's worth of practice on the steeple, and so it wasn't a whole lot. Definitely a lot less than what I would prefer, but I was just kind of confident that she was going to do well just based off of her 5K time. And now, unfortunately, a lot of coaches had the same idea, and there was 16 women in this past race, and 14 of them hadn't ran it before. So I told her to get out quick, so that since she struggles with the water jump still, which is what we need to work on, like if she gets that down this week, she could be the number 1 athlete in the steeplechase, because she was having to come to a complete stop at every water jump and climb on it and then jump off of it, whereas like most of the others were just doing it properly with jumping on it and pushing off. And so she had to constantly restart, but she ran exactly how I told her to run it, since like she struggles with that, and it got her a 5th place ranking in the conference. She also ran the race with both shoes untied.
Was that intentional, or is that just
that's just what happened like from the beginning? But she said like still broke 13, which I was thrilled about. And I think that with some work on the water jump, I mean, this year she could be one of the top athletes in the conference, but definitely next year and years later, like I think that's her event, and I could see her breaking the school record in it eventually.
And certainly one where, as a first year, she has a ton of time to go and learn it and improve. And you said she's been only practicing for a week, if that, given the weather that's happened in Frostburg, and that certainly not helping anything. You could probably give me a month, and I might not be able to run a sub-25 in that event, but certainly very impressive. Going back into the sprinters, Nick Richardson and Nathaniel Messi went 1 and 2 in the 400, both set PRs, where Nick is now number 1 in the conference in the 400, and Nathaniel's 5th now for them, and a great race to see them both finish 1-2 across that line.
Yeah, they've been pushing each other in every single practice, and it's great to have that dynamic of, I mean, it's similar to John and Mike, where you have these two athletes that are just as good as one another, and so every day you come to practice, you're going to have somebody there to push you. And Nick running that 48.99 this past weekend, and not too far away from his PR, and which is not too far away from the school record for outdoor. And Nathaniel, he came in with a 51.10 as his PR in the 400 out of high school, and it's now dropped to that 49.52. And I mean, it makes it great for our 400 group, and it makes it great for our 4x4 team. And this year, that 400 is pretty loaded across the conference, and it's a lot stronger than what it has been in past years. So that's going to be another race that coaches are going to circle, that say this is a key race where we're going to see some fast times. And like I said, that's another one that I'm excited to watch come conference time.
Yeah, and both of those key parts of that 4x4, like you mentioned, where you're seeded number 2 in the conference, but right there I think Wheeling was the top time in the conference, but tenths of a second, hundredths of a second, the difference between the two teams, and one another good one to watch. Nick also 5th in the 100, 7th in the 200, where he's also pushed in those two events by Clay Washington, the two of them being able to work And again, in the 100 and the 200, one of the races where, people think, oh, the fastest person just wins, but you can have false starts. You can come out of the blocks awkwardly. You can, anything can happen in those races where he can place, and both of them can place, onto the podium or getting points for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's there's not one event like in this conference that is secured with the rankings, and because anything can happen, and with declarations coming up soon as to like where coaches decide like who to put where, like those rankings can definitely change like at the conference meet, to where if athletes don't declare for the 400 because they're in the 1 and the 2, then that moves Nathaniel up. And if like that, like same thing in the 800 and like the 1500, like across the whole board, like if athletes don't declare for certain events because they're focused on other events, then that will definitely change like the scoring. And so we're kind of playing this chess game with all the other coaches to figure out like where's our best opportunity to score points. And I guess that's the exciting part about this conference championship weekend, is figuring out where do we score the most at, like what's going to set us up for the most success, and then hoping that other teams don't enter athletes into those events. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an exciting weekend. Looking forward to this first outdoor conference championship here.
Absolutely, getting your first taste of the MEC championships and being able to see. You've seen all these teams, throughout the season, but it's finally everything's on display. This is everything you got. Better set of PR and all of this to get the points and just see where you place in the conference. But certainly an exciting prospect for you in being your first time coaching this outdoor meet. For the athletes, and wish you certainly the best of luck. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your morning to come and talk to us here.
Thank you.
Back on the Bobcast this week with women's soccer head coach Brian Parker. And Coach, your season just ending on a MEC semifinal loss to Notre Dame, 4-3 on penalty kicks after the game finished 0-0. But certainly a successful year for you guys. Obviously, no coach wants to end their year on a loss. But what did you make of basically that game and then your entire season up to this point?
Well, it always hurts at first. Of course, you miss the players, more than anything. I always joke about how ironic it is that the day after we finish playing, we always have these beautiful days for soccer practice, And, of course, that happened on Friday, a bit over the weekend. So, that's always difficult. I think it's important that you get up the next day and have your coffee and shower and make sure you're on time to everything and show yourself and sort of face the music, which I think all of our players did on Friday and we did in the office. And, I have a pretty good, feeling about how competitive we were in the match. I mean, it is ironic, I guess, that Notre Dame ended up winning Sunday and that we had a win and a draw with them, basically, in the regular season. So, or in the playoff in the regular season. So we're obviously right there. As bitter as it is in the short term to have sort of lost an opportunity or sort of squandered that opportunity to maybe do something extra special this year, we're certainly feeling grateful about the opportunity to play and feel pretty good about where we are in year two, in this conference.
Notre Dame themselves going on to win the conference championship on Sunday against Concord, like you mentioned. But a very talented team, and one that we talked earlier in the season when you won 1-0 back in that first matchup, where you said that they were the team that played the most similar to you of the teams that you had played against this year. And it kind of almost went the same way in this game, where both teams were not creating very many clear-cut chances, but certainly chances that can be scored. Obviously, you guys winning that penalty in the first game, but this time just not being able to get that winning goal, neither side able to, but a team where very, very balanced between the two sides.
So what you see often in college soccer, I think, is, 2-4-3-3s kind of slugging it out, and that's, I think, what happened on Thursday night. And, their pressure and athleticism defensively forcing us to play faster than we want, a little more direct than we want. Certainly our sort of possession platform and our ability to build out of the back and sort of manage the momentum of the game was difficult because they've got great athletes. They've got two great speedy wide players, the center forward also good. So they weren't giving us much time on the ball, and so we were obviously doing the same kind of thing to them. So it was just kind of a battle of who can get on the ball and get control of it and kind of calm down. And one of the big things we talked about in the preparation was exactly that, was being able to just kind of change gears. And, the idea of, and a lot of sports are like this, team sports are like this, where you want to play fast, you want to play quickly, and move the ball and try to look for matchups and, numbers up situations, but you don't want to be frantic and be hurried. And so trying to find that balance and kind of thoughtfulness, and I guess it's really just composure is what we're really describing. That was the key to that game, and we had big moments of it. I think second half we had a lot of it. Certainly generated some great quality chances that, we would, expect to maybe go in here and there. But on balance, I would say probably the first game should have been a draw, and the second game we were probably a little better, to be honest, and had a draw and had to decide it in PKs. So I felt pretty good about the shootout, in fact, because I think our preparation was really pretty good. It's always difficult, like I guess free throws in basketball. Is it just you just take a 10,000 every week? Like, is there no limit, to how much practice you can have? Or do you at some point get to a point where, okay, enough is enough, I feel good about it? So I thought, I've had years where we've over-prepared and years where I feel like we've under-prepared, and I kind of felt pretty good about it. Obviously, you feel terrible for the girls who don't cash in. But Bilger, made a save, and that's certainly what should be all you need. So it's a little bit unfortunate, but again, I think the performance level was pretty good. I think better than the first game, which of course we're happy about.
Yeah, certainly. And in that PK shootout where, sort of like you said in the free throws, where you can kind of practice all you want, but once you get into that game situation there at the end where, a playoff spot and a final spot is on the line, it does change things a little bit for the athletes. And plus, when they're running for 110 minutes, the legs get a little bit jelly at the end, and you just hope that the goalkeeper guesses the wrong way. Wanted to talk a little bit about just kind of the season overall between the players that you had. And I wanted to start with Ashley Bilger, who you just mentioned, who came in as a first year. Obviously, last season you played, due to injuries, you didn't really have a consistent goalkeeper at any given point throughout the entire year. But she's come in and really steadied the ship in a way there at the back line, commanding her defense and then being able to make big saves. I remember in the opening 10 minutes of the Notre Dame game this past week, she had a one-on-one. The ball just fell to their winger right at the front of the goal. She came out and smothered it and really kept you guys in to start that game. But overall in the season, just a very big player to come in and really steady that goalkeeping position.
So it's not usually good to think of your goalkeeper in any sport as a difference maker. That's probably not where you want to be, where like we really need saves to stay in this game. But there's no question that she came up big at important moments as our season progressed. And I was looking at the numbers, and I'm pretty sure our goals allowed was super low for the even for the short season we had. And I think going back to when we certainly admit we had a little bit of a nightmare at Wheeling, but since that Wheeling game, I think we allowed one goal, which was the free kick to D&E. So that's a massive credit to the whole team, of course, but Bilger was a big part of that. And the example that you gave, that ball just kind of squirted through a defender's legs and surprised her, and she attacked it and got a touch. And that was that. You didn't. When I saw it live, I wasn't quite sure how good it was. Until when I watched the video, I was like, wow, she really reacts well to that and keeps it out, because it kind of looked like maybe the striker sort of fumbled it and just hit it wide, but she got a touch. So yeah, there were moments when she was a difference maker and came up big for us and has a bright future.
And we'll talk about the defense next. And what you were saying is that you allowed one goal in your final 5 games, including the semifinal game, and it was just the one goal against D&E in the 4-1 win that you guys had. But a defense where you kind of had to switch it up at times. In the mid-year, having a player leave, and then Mackenzie Fulch having to take time off, and then getting hurt in the semifinal as well. But Abby Dennis and Jamie DiTullo, Mina Del Borello, and between Mackenzie Fulch and Hannah Thompson in the end, who dropped back from midfield, they looked just pretty solid, like in control almost at all times where you're playing against teams with really fast, tricky forwards and wingers. But they look to just always have things prepared in front of them, even if what's going on in front of them might be a little bit frantic and speedy. They always seem to have their heads on straight and be able to know what their jobs are.
Yeah, great group. Great group. You know, I mean, Abby and Fulch are both just fantastic individual defenders, but they're pretty comfortable with the ball, too. That's been useful to us, certainly. Obviously, the wider players are the ones who are going to get the super speedy athletic matchup. And so sometimes we've done a little switching and kind of made sure we kind of like the matchup. You know, we like, I think Mina's a little stronger, a little pacier at times than Jamie. But Jamie did great. You know, certainly needed massive minutes from her as things wore on. And, you know, she did very well, of course. So, you know, I got to just say that number's outrageous. You're going to tell me we're going to go 5 games and allow 1 goal? I mean, who wouldn't take that? I mean, I think any team in the country would take that. So, especially as one of those was a postseason game. So I'm actually really happy about that group, and it's probably the most consistent, cohesive, segment of our team because we are familiar with those players. They are all returning players and are all going to return again in the fall. So. Really credit Hannah Thompson for stepping in. I knew she could play center back. I'd seen that in her past, and she stepped in there when we needed her on short notice and was terrific. Was maybe kind of a player of the match sort of in the games she had to play in because of that. So, you know, the dominoes of that in midfield affected us a little bit maybe at the end, but, you know, again, I couldn't be happier with the progress they've made. I mean, okay, of course we're not as good as we want to be, and I think they're hungry and really want to improve. Probably our possession ability out of the back certainly can improve and should improve. But defensively, we were great, and I'm very happy with their progress.
Absolutely, and even going off the 1 goal in 5 games, in the 9 games they ended up playing in the year, only 5 goals allowed in those, so almost less than a half a goal per game being allowed by them. And then we go into midfield, who also contributes to that defensive quality where they kind of can mix things up and really pressure the other team. And late in the season, Caroline Burton and Leela Clark both going in as kind of number 8s. Hannah playing mostly as the number 6 for the season, but then Caroline and her having to switch back with the change in defense. And just really brought energy. I mean, that's the first word I have written down is that Caroline and Leela both just spew out energy whenever they're on the game. And you mentioned that, you know, when you play Caroline, you don't ever have to worry about her or having to sub her off or anything because you know she's going to run that full 90 minutes.
Yeah, so I think what you're seeing is evidence of their own just personal commitment. You know, you know, they've decided that they want to take good care of themselves and really be the sort of fittest, healthiest version of themselves they can be. You know, we talked before about Leela having a bit slower start to the fall. Caroline had the advantage of being here last spring. But just they're just athletically, they're just like machines. Their energy level is outstanding. We're asking Leela to perform maybe, you know, a bit more maybe with the ball and take a little bit more risk with her positioning and mobility. And she's terrific. I think Caroline is a little bit more defensive minded and just kind of picks and chooses her moments to spring forward and add in. And again, she's been really good, and you had that great goal against D&E that I'm sure she'll remember will be on her highlight reel.
And I'm sure she's going to bring it up to you and all the other players at some point as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's hard to say like we expect that every game or whatever, but those are things that should be happening way more often, to be honest. So again, there's certainly things we can improve, but I think that the point you said about energy level and just activity and defensive presence as well as speed of play and handling the ball, that's been kind of the biggest difference in our years. Those new players have really added something to our midfield that has been good, real good.
And another player that I wanted to mention quickly, and that a player that's a little bit more experienced in Corey Striano, who really stepped up late in the season, had to kind of throw her in due to Hannah having to move back, and she came in and almost a seamless transition where she's not, the energy levels of Caroline and Leela, where she doesn't have the pace or the stamina to keep up and go box to box like those two, but a player where just calm in possession and very smart, knows where to be and what right passes to make.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that thoughtfulness and composure and quality is what Corey brings. And so, not the longer bursts of time and energy maybe that the other players are giving us, but when she's on the ball, she's terrific. Doesn't lose the ball well. Strong player, smart player, can use both feet. really super quality passer. Honestly, that cross she put in, on Thursday night was kind of interesting. It was a pretty good ball, but she broke that defender and served in a great ball, and she did that several times in the game. So I'm really happy that Corey got to play a bit of a role at the end and really give us, again, some thoughtfulness and composure that you would kind of expect from an upper-class player, but very happy for her.
Absolutely. And so we go into now the forwards where for the main part of the season was Audra Curtin, Tony Fiacco-Miser, and Lexi Pate, and then you can bring on Charlotte Davis and Ashley Chu off the bench. You can play Leela in any of those three positions as well. But they had a lot of interchangeability where Audra, Lexi, and Tony can all play in that center forward position. They can all play on the wings. They can all go into attacking mid. They can score in different ways. They have chemistry between each other. And it's interesting being that Tony and Lexi both, it's their first years playing in this program and getting game time. Audra obviously has been here, really stepped up last year and took it to another level this year as well, without Brooke Shahady and having to step up. But, I mean, you lose one of the best strikers we've had in program history, and the forward line didn't really lose a beat with those 3, 4, 5 players.
Right, and so, and what you're kind of describing is how different all three of them are. Tony is obviously the smaller, skillful, quick player who's just will try all kinds of things. Her head is full of all kinds of soccer ideas, and she also hits the ball really well. Audra is the, size and strength and can hold up a ball, and really hard to get the ball from her. There are times in training where, our players just can't get the ball from Audra if she decides to just kind of get in that beast mode, And then, Pate is a taller, longer, kind of linear player who likes to get out and run. So a lot of what we're just doing is exploring the matchups and trying to find things that we can take advantage of. What most often happen is, we like Tony in that center channel because she runs out of it so well and gets in holes and runs smartly in the seams and things. And then when she pulls the center back out, here's Leela and Caroline kind of filling that space. But there were times when Audra was just a little bit better just with her hold-up play and just trying to play through her. She's a really good play-through player, but can also turn and run and obviously hits the ball super well. So, again, I think the interchangeability of them and the fact that they do bring different things was an advantage for us for sure. Obviously Chu got some starts. Charlotte got some starts. Marley Cope's got a start or two this year and got some time. So we've got a nice depth at that area. And, sometimes it is just about who's in form and feeling good. And, Audra had that stretch with the game-winning goals. And obviously Pate had a nice stretch at the end where she was taking advantage of her matchup. So Tony scored some important goals for us and was always dangerous. It was just a great player to watch. So I'm no question that the mix has been good. And, we look forward to the fall. There's not a team on earth that can't improve how they manage the final third and create chances. And I feel like there's a hunger in our team. Like we got a taste of it this year, and it was a little bit bitter. And so I think if we could, start the season next week, I think a lot of our kids would be thrilled about that. So I'm really happy about that. I think we know we know the potential we have. I think we're going to be a lot better. Yeah,
and certainly in a team where, unlike a lot of the teams, in this department where you guys can essentially bring back every single player that you want for next year. Remains to be seen if that'll happen, but certainly a starting 11 where, while improvements can be made and you have a whole offseason now to work on that, but certainly where, looking forward to next fall, you're going to be in the conversation for top of the conference with some other very talented teams. Obviously, this conference very good. I think finished the season with 3 or 4 ranked teams in total. And I wanted to go back to that where you guys finished 6-2-1 on the year, but the first national ranking in school history, finishing number 2 in the conference. But when we brought you in and we told you, hey, you guys are nationally ranked, you're 17 in the country, and that was back on April 6th. You moved up to 15th in the most recent poll, but certainly big for the program after a few successful years in Division III, back at the early 2000s, mid 2000s, but not necessarily being recognized, and then stepping up to Division II and now getting your first ranking.
So it's awesome to get that recognition, and of course we put that on social media and talk a lot about it when we get chances. But there's going to be a lot of asterisks around the country this year. So obviously not all the Division II teams are playing in the spring, and so there's a few less teams available to be ranked. And let's just say we will take our glow, ours in the sunshine when we can take it. But obviously, it's a credit to the players and the work that's been put in, as you know, and obviously the results. And you know, we did beat Notre Dame, and they won our conference. So, what does that say? I mean, obviously, it's a good sign going forward. They were ranked. I think Concord probably, I'm sure, is very disappointed. You know, they were the favorites and got the home field and didn't. I guess I would argue. I guess they wouldn't. They would say they didn't play particularly well Sunday. But if that's the upper tier of the MEC, you know, we feel pretty good. We're certainly right there. And the fun thing, as you said, is you know, we're just adding players to the current team. You know, we've got a great class coming in for the fall, and so. You know, I think the funny thing is, you know, you could ask anyone in the country, even at UNC or UVA or wherever, are 100% of your kids right now going to be healthy and ready in August? That's not going to happen to anybody. So, of course, we'll roll with the punches, and we have great depth all over the field, but obviously the ingredients are there, and we feel great about the future moving forward. And like I said, I think that little taste of it in the playoff is going to really motivate a lot of our players, and I'm already feeling that, you know, by being in touch with them, and you know, the Notre Dame winning Sunday is always kind of bittersweet. You know, you kind of want you're kind of bitter because you want the team that beat you to maybe not win it because you're bitter, but obviously it's a great sign when the team that got over on you does really well. So I think the future looks bright, and I'm certainly thrilled about the current commitment level and the culture of the team, and I think the new players coming in are. You know, they're excited. I'm sure I'm in touch with them all the time, but, you know, we're going to hit the ground running in the fall, no doubt about it. And it should be pretty exciting.
Absolutely. And no coach is ever going to complain about having competition for places where it's going to give you a headache on who to play in certain weeks, but certainly one where you can feel confident about the players that are going to be going out there.
So someone told me once that college coach that said that you're only going to have one really good team when you really have two good teams. You know, so, and I think the point of that is not about numbers. It's just being able to train your own team internally at a really high level, so that every time you're playing 7-a-side or 4v4 or 11-a-side, that the level of the game is really high. And so we've got to that point, you know, and so I think that's pretty exciting going forward.
Absolutely. And so congratulations on this season. Certainly hoping for better in the fall, even more, to get to a conference final, maybe win the conference as well. But we'll take it step by step as we go along. Thank you for taking the time out of your morning and for this entire season, this wacky spring fall sport playing season, to come onto the Bobcast every week for us.
I appreciate the coverage and appreciate you guys having us. Has it only been 1 year? Has it only been 1 year this year? Feels like several years. So thanks very much, and good luck to you. Have a great summer. You guys deserve it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Coach. Once again here on the Bobcast, and wrapping up the field hockey season with head coach Kaitlin Thompson, wrapping up with a 4-0 loss against Johns Hopkins, and then playing an extra period with a 7v7 and a 1-0 one-period loss. But Coach, certainly just happy for you to be able to have a season in this uncertain year where you don't have a conference to try and schedule opponents, dip back into your D3 experience and reached out to some coaches who were nice enough to schedule you guys, and being able to have this talented first-year group that you have being able to compete, and the seniors as well being able to get in another season under their belts.
Yeah, we're just, again, really grateful that we were able to play. Like you mentioned, it was great to be able to see our seniors get out there, play one last time, and great to also get our big freshman class some experience as well, for rolling into their sophomore years next year. So, yeah, we're really excited about our progress moving forward. You know, Hopkins is a wonderful team. They made it to the Final Four in 2019, and they just are perennially a really great field hockey program. So the fact that, you know, we hung in there, you know, 3-0 in regulation, 1-0 in overtime, had a lot of good opportunities, especially in the first half that, you know, obviously we wish would have went down, but it's great for us to be able to, you know, hang with such a great team. So
Absolutely. And so in that first quarter, and you mentioned in the first half, you outshot Hopkins 4-1 coming out, and then kind of faded away a little bit down the stretch where they kind of took control. But like you mentioned, a very talented team. But how big was it for you guys to come out strong and kind of prove yourselves against, like you said, a national semifinalist?
Yeah, I mean, I think our girls just were really, really amped up to play. They knew that it was our last opportunity to play again together. So, especially with our seniors as well. And so I think they were just ready to play and came out strong and fighting. And, obviously, again, would have loved some of those 1v goalkeeper looks to go in. But just the fact that, we did really well. Our whole attack did really well on our press, which led to our offensive opportunities. So seeing things like that lead to successful opportunities is really promising moving forward.
Absolutely, and once you get those practices in, and players get more confidence, they can get kind of into the flow of things, and those opportunities certainly ones that will go in the future. Wanted to talk as well about Maggie Hopp, who came in, played the full game. Had a competition kind of in the season between her and Madison Manalanson between the goalkeeper spot. But she, you look in the 4 goals allowed, maybe, an outsider looking in that's not bringing in the most confidence, but played pretty well considering overall coming in and playing against such a good team.
Yeah, Maggie played really well on Thursday. She did a great job, especially in that third quarter. We were getting pelted with a lot of shots, and she made a lot of great saves. It's tough. The first goal that goes in, it's a penalty stroke. Not really supposed to win those ones. So I had all the confidence in the world that she would have saved it. Because honestly, if we had to pick, we got the opportunity to pick which goalkeeper is going to be in for a stroke. It's Maggie for us. But Hopkins girl took a nice shot, went in, and scored a couple more from there. But I thought Maggie did a great job in cage on Thursday. So
absolutely, and one where being expecting to save a penalty shot, where both you and your assistant Nicole both having experience working with goalkeepers and defense throughout your entire careers, but certainly again the competition between those two going into the fall, where I talk about Taylor Sindall. Where she has kind of the same thing. She's brought in 2 first-year goalkeepers that push one another, where you guys have it as well. Madison getting the starts to start this year, but then Maggie coming in this game and being able to have the competition where one player can't get a little too overconfident or complacent in getting their place, and we could put in the next goalkeeper if you're not performing well.
Definitely, and they know they see each other as competition, but also it's a healthy competition for them. And we do also have a first-year goalkeeper coming in next year that'll join that competition as well. So that'll definitely be an exciting one to see as we progress into the fall. So hopefully they do a great job of going home, playing as much field hockey as they can, seeing as many shots as they can, and keeping up with their workouts. So yeah,
absolutely. And so keeping on the theme of first years, where you've raved all season about the talent level of the first-year players that you have, and I talked with Nicole a little bit over the weekend about having their just energy and their go-getting mentalities, where they want to succeed, they want to make All-American, they want to go All-Conference, they want to win conferences. Obviously, a little tough without too many field hockey programs in Division II to have a conference to go to, but just their mentality to all want to go get it and push the rest of the team of like, hey, we want to be at this level, let's get to this level regardless of who we're playing against.
Yeah, they're a very motivated group of girls, and we're so excited about them moving forward. They just have all the confidence in the world in themselves and each other, which is fantastic to see. And yeah, they do set high goals for themselves, but they're not, the special part about them is that they set high goals for themselves, but they put the work in as well, and they know what they need to do. They come into the office after every game, ask me what they need to do. They, go out on the field every day and show that they're making these improvements as well. So it's not just all talk for them. They back it up, and we're really excited to see how they continue to progress moving forward.
Absolutely. And you have the off season to work with them, bring in the new players, and kind of get the mesh right again. Where this year, kind of a lot of first year players coming in. You mentioned the seniors earlier getting their kind of last hurrah here, but one where you had to blend a program where hasn't had a ton of success in terms of wins and losses, but certainly driving fours, and then obviously you coming in now, and building up. Finally, your recruiting classes are able to have the full 4 years with one another, and how is it going to be to mesh the players in and have the same mentality for players coming through as well as players that have been here for a couple years to get them to that next level as well?
Yeah, I think, moving forward, just especially the fact that it is the freshman class who has really grabbed onto that mentality, it's going to be easier and easier for girls moving in to know that, this is the level that these guys are holding themselves to. So this is the level that I need to hold myself to. So just being able to see the class in front of them and replicate that, I think is going to be huge for our program moving forward, and it just makes us more and more successful. And yeah, we talk about this freshman class and how talented and determined they are, but our senior class as well, our outgoing seniors of Coffee, Gabby, and Brooke, they've done a great job of just coming in day in and day out. They had a coaching change with me when they were freshmen. They had obviously the pandemic in their senior year. They had the division change. They've gone through a lot of things throughout their 4 years, and they've just always been a group that just works really hard regardless of what's going on around them. And I think that them having that mentality just kept going down and down the line, and now again we're talking about the freshman class having that strong mentality, and hopefully that just keeps going down and down through the line, and we just keep becoming a stronger program.
Yeah, and certainly one where you have to replace all of that talent that you're going to be losing, but one where the leadership as well going into the underclassmen, where they can kind of make their mark and say, hey, we put in this work, we've done this and that, and the wins-loss may not reflect it, but that will reflect on you guys. So we kind of hope you the best. Has that kind of been their message to the underclassmen, in that, we just want the best for you guys to carry on kind of our legacy that we've set?
Yeah, definitely. They've just been such great leaders moving forward, and again, like you kind of mentioned, they just want to be the best example, so that way when they leave, they know they left this program better, and they have. So, yeah.
Absolutely, and a good send-off for them, and certainly helpful as a coach, where you can't do everything on your own with just you and an assistant, and having that help from the players is always nice to have. But certainly want to thank you for taking the time out of every week to come and talk to us. You're planning this whole big banquet here in the athletic department. You've been busy running all around for the past couple of weeks, scheduling changes within your own program, and having to now from a home game, going on a road trip in 1 week. But very thankful for you to come and talk to us on the Bobcast. Certainly want to wish you the best of luck for the fall. We'll be excited to have a full season of field hockey back at Bobcat Stadium.
Yeah, glad we could make this season work, but hopefully we can go back to normal soon. But thank you very much.
Wrapping up the Bobcast this week with tennis head coach Jeff Splinter. And in your second to last week of competition, Coach, the men losing 7-0 and 6-1 to West Virginia Wesleyan and St. Mary's, respectively, and then the women losing 7-0 to Wesleyan, but then picking up their second win of the season against St. Mary's 6-1, and certainly another good week for you guys. And the results just not going your way, but some good tennis that was played overall from both teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Our women's tennis team had an incredible week. A tough fight against West Virginia Wesleyan. I know the score says 7-0, but being there, it was a very tight, very close match. Could have went either way. We had a couple of our players going through some issues throughout the week with some just some like regular sickness type things, so it kind of really impeded them from playing to their maximum ability, but they got out there and played to their best, so we really applaud their efforts for that. But got a great result from one doubles there against Wesleyan, which is something we've been working with those two a lot on, and they really came to play and put some really good tennis through. Just couldn't get a win from either second or third doubles to secure that doubles point, and I think had we won that doubles point going into singles, would have really changed some of our momentum in that singles matches, because across the entire board, Wesleyan is a very competitive program with us, I think, and from one singles down to six singles, I can't really see one way or one spot that they have an edge or we have an edge. It could have gone either way on any given day. So, it's just coming out there, and what I loved is we bounced back and really played our best tennis on Saturday against St. Mary's.
And that's an old CAC foe coming back and playing you guys here. And it was senior day on Saturday, where you had Jeff and Tim Goldring and Ryan Tomasic all being honored. And I want to talk about those three, where Jeff and Tim have really kind of been models of the program for the last 4 years that they've been here. You always know what they're going to get out of them. They bring energy. They're a lot of fun to be around. Results, again, might not always go their way, but that doesn't tell the whole story in how they play and just the energy and the leadership that they bring to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Those three are really the foundation of what we're building going forward. With their constant energy, their infectious attitudes, their never quit attitudes as well. It's something that the rest of the guys on the team learn from and are going to continue to put forth in future recruits and future Bobcats here at Frostburg. So, yeah, we're really excited that we were able to give them a senior day, and be able to play this year. But really, those three guys, Ryan transferring in and playing for 2 years, Jeff and Tim playing for 4 years, you haven't really been able to play as much as they would have liked their entire career here. So, we're just glad we had a season. We're glad we were able to really give them the attention that they deserve, because they've given so much of themselves to this program over the course of their 4 years here.
Yeah, absolutely. And all three of them, it seems, when I was out taking pictures of you guys and seeing them play, they, no matter what it was, they all just had a smile on their face almost at all times. Obviously in competition, you're locked in and focused, but whenever, they would break a point or they would go and talk with their doubles partner, it was just, they were smiling and laughing the whole time. It was really wonderful to see. So we go in the women's victory, their second on the year. A lot of success in that match. Starting out with the doubles and Rabiatu Ladan and Betsy Hickson both picking up a doubles win, and then Jen Dieterle and Charisse Jenkins winning their match to pick up the point for you guys. And like you mentioned with the Wesleyan match, that you won the first doubles match but then couldn't pick up the point. And this time the reverse of you pick up that doubles point and it energizes for the singles matches as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Betsy and Robbie have been our engine all season long with what they do at second doubles, and the team really does reflect what they do. They bring out a lot of energy, a lot of celebrations, a lot of poaching at the net. So, it was nice to have them feel confident. And, the thing I loved about that match against St. Mary's is I feel everyone was clicking, everyone was playing the way we're supposed to. St. Mary's has been in a better spot before, and I know they will going forward here, but, we were able to really take advantage of the skill gap a little bit and really play our brand of tennis instead of, bringing it down to what, their type of tennis is. And we didn't get into a consistent rallying game. We stuck to our guns. We played to our approach shots, and we really put balls away.
And so, that followed up, like I mentioned, in the singles victories where Robbie, Jen, Betsy, and Charisse all won their singles matches. They were joined by Emanuela Odiong, who a really good player that, again, and I feel like we talk about this all the time, where the results just don't necessarily go her way, sometimes losing that one or two key points, but just a model of excellence for this team in their own right. And then in the doubles, making it pretty close, having to have a new partner with her regular Shea being out for those matches, but another just strong performance from her on the season again.
Yeah, absolutely. We started out the season with Manny and Maddie at one doubles, and it's something we felt very comfortable with, putting Maddie down at three doubles. Having her skill down there with Charisse has been a big help at the three double spot. And Shea's been kind of sick, so we've been giving her some days off while we can. But those two just instantly clicked right back, and it felt great seeing them out there again together playing doubles. And I think Manny really they started out kind of slow in doubles, but Manny really kind of took what she did well in doubles and focused it all into singles. She's been doing a phenomenal job these last couple of weeks really focusing on her gameplay, focusing on not letting the little things bother her, because she is an outstanding tennis player once she blocks out a lot of the mental things that she's got going on, and really focuses on her tennis game because this is by far the best I've seen her play since she's been here.
And so you have both Manny and Robbie in 3-set matches coming back, winning the first set and then the second set back. But they pick it back up in the third set. And we talked about, the men's team a few weeks ago, where it was the reverse, where they would win the first set but then lose the next two. Here it was the reverse, where mentally they were able to recover from the second set loss and go in and pretty much dominate the third set on their own right, and having that mental fortitude to pick up those victories.
Yeah, absolutely. It is so hard when you win the first set relatively easily. We always forget that there's still a competitor on the other side of the net, and they're going to do whatever they can to, they want to win the match, obviously, just as much as we do. So, if we let that slip for a game or two, that could be the set, and that could be, just a lapse in judgment for a couple of points here or there. But I love seeing them get back and, getting mentally in it where they're so focused from point to point, not really worrying about what happened, if they missed the shot, if they hit a winner, just worrying about playing their brand of tennis to the next points. And I think, that's something we loved seeing from Robbie and from Manny on Saturday, where they didn't let anything bother them. They didn't even let it phase them that they lost the second set. They're just like, all right, yeah, great. We get to play more tennis on a nice sunny day finally. It's nice having great weather out there. So they really played the best tennis over the course of 3 sets. The second set didn't go their way, but they just got right back up on the horse and played the way they should have been.
Yeah, finally the weather gods finally shining down on you a little bit on Saturday, and now it's just a shame that the season wraps up this week when it's mid-70s and sunny, and now going forward. But going into now the men's team, and on Saturday, Mason Hordebay, who your Energizer Bunny every week, but he had another 3-set loss, but he always competes in battles every single week, and it's just, a little bit unfortunate for him that he just can't pick up the key victories when he can get to either a 1-set lead or a 1-set tie and just not be able to put away, but just continues to go every single week, never drops off mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was encouraging for him this week. I know he's had a couple of tough 3-set losses. This one he felt a lot better about. St. Mary's is a very talented, and their roster is pretty deep. I would think if Origin was 100% healthy and their entire roster was 100% healthy, it would have been a very close match. And I just love having those competitive matches. And St. Mary's coach is a former alumni of Frostburg, so we love having him coming back and playing the team. He loves seeing the school and all the improvements. So he's excited for the growth of the program. He knows how good our players are. We know how good his players are. And, Mason was in a tough battle with a guy who is very similar to his level the entire time. And, again, he's putting in quality points, point after point. And the way he plays so aggressive. He plays, on his feet the entire match where, I think we're finally getting to a point where he's not getting tired in the third set anymore. And he's so focused on what he's doing, point in and point out. He really took that Mount Aloysius match, that loss there, and he's let that fuel him the last 2 weeks where he's very locked in and he doesn't let little things bother him anymore, and we're really seeing the best that he's got.
And so you talked a little bit about Origin, who paired with Jeff Goldring in that doubles match, a very close loss for them. It was 7-5 that ended up, and then Origin in the singles lost very narrowly in his first set and then had to retire because of the injury in the second set. So certainly that 6-1 doesn't necessarily tell the full story of the match there, and certainly wishing that Origin can continue to come back healthy because we know how talented he is. But then wanted to talk about the victory that you got in the singles. Ben Williams came in the 6th spot and picked up the win for you guys. You mentioned last week with Matt Ambrose of he's kind of with Ethan Von Hagel, and for that number 6 spot competing against one another to see who can take it, and Ben showed up that day and he got the victory for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Origin's been out for a week and a half now with a shoulder thing, and he tried to give it a go in singles and just couldn't withstand the entire match. We had to retire. Just couldn't continue. But it's really been a great opportunity for Ben and Ethan to step up, and that Millersville match was the match that really set Ben apart, where we noticed he is competing at a high level, and he's just doing it a lot more consistently. And to see him back it up with, Wesleyan is a tough match. It was a tough match for the guys. That's the defending Mountain East Conference champion here for men's tennis, but still competing, going out there and not letting it bother him, and still trying to play his game. Ben's got a pretty aggressive style to where he can still win points just based on his game. He's got a good serve. He's got a really nice forehand that wins him points pretty easily, and that's really what he did against St. Mary's. Is he went out there, he was the aggressor, and unlike that match in Mount Aloysius, just didn't let that guy back in the door against St. Mary's. He that second set 6-0, and didn't even think twice about it. He's like, man, wish I would have done that the first set. Like, that's what I was capable of. And the fact that he's starting to realize it now, we're not fooling around in these matches anymore.
It's really one to improve upon, and for the entire team really going into next year and having recruits come in to push everyone to get better and be more competitive in what's a pretty good tennis conference in the MEC. Certainly Charleston, one of the teams at the top, and kind of leads the conference, but a lot of competitive teams underneath them as well. And you finish up MEC play Tuesday. You're back here at home against Fairmont State in your last match of the season, which should be another really competitive match between two programs in the MEC. Fairmont, certainly some winnable matches in there for you guys, and it should be a very good match day for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Fairmont's another one of those teams where they have what we want. So they're in the top 4 in both sides. They're a playoff contending team in the Mountain East Conference. So that's where we see ourselves in the future here. So it's a lot of taking notes. It's a lot of playing our best tennis, and if we can get out here, compete in the matches is what we're trying to do. But ultimately, we're getting a lot of great experience in playing against some top-level players. So when time comes next year, when we can be a competitive playoff team, we're going to be ready, and we know exactly what all these teams have to bring.
Absolutely, and we certainly wish you the best of luck for that day and for the fall season as well. And thank you for taking time out of your morning here. Come and talk to us on the Bobcast, as always.
Great, thank you.